Jeju Air Flight 2216. Jeju Air Flight 2216 was a Boeing 737-800 flying from Bangkok, Thailand to Muon International Airport in South Korea on the 29th of December 2024. The plane was carrying families who were returning from their Christmas holidays. Tragically, the plane crashed and exploded after a failed emergency landing. A total of 179 people out of the 181 on board died. There were 2 survivors, both flight attendants, who are now being treated in the hospital. The plane was trying to land at Muon Airport, but didn't manage to deploy its landing gear, ending up sliding along the runway on its belly with excessive speed. The plane skidded on the runway until it hit a concrete wall, causing a devastating explosion. There are reports that before the crash, air traffic controllers had warned about bird activity in that area. What we know also is that the pilot declared an emergency, suggesting there might have been mechanical problems. Experts are at this time looking into what exactly could have caused the disaster. One possibility is that birds struck the plane, damaging the engines or even landing gear. However, some aviation experts find it very strange for all the landing gear to fail at once just because of birds. Another issue is the concrete wall at the end of the runway, which made things much worse. Yet it was reported that the plane approached the runway from the opposite direction, as the concrete wall was located at the start of the runway, not at the end. One of Britain's most experienced aviation experts has blamed the tragedy on the airport's fatal design flaw. Investigations are still ongoing to figure out exactly what actually happened. But one thing is for sure, this is now being called one of South Korea's worst aviation disasters. Air Canada Express Flight 2259, operated by PAL Airlines. This was a de Havilland -8400 turboprop flying from St. John's, Newfoundland to Halifax, Nova Scotia. On December 28, 2024, around 9:30 p.m., the plane ran into trouble while landing at Halifax Stanfield International Airport. As the plane landed, its left main landing gear gave out, causing the left wing and engine to scrape along the runway. Sparks flew, and a fire broke out on the left side of the plane. All 73 passengers and crew got out safely, and no one was seriously hurt. Emergency teams acted fast, helping everyone off the plane and taking them to the terminal by bus. Experts believe a mechanical issue in the landing gear might have caused the problem. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada is investigating to figure out the exact cause, looking into things like maintenance records, possible manufacturing defects, and how the plane was operated. The -8400 is known for being reliable, but this incident shows how important regular maintenance and quick responses to mechanical issues are. Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243. Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243, an Embraer 190 jet, was flying from Baku, Azerbaijan to Grozny, Russia on December 25, 2024, when events took a tragic turn. The plane ultimately crashed near Aktau, Kazakhstan, killing 38 out of the 67 people on board. Luckily, there was 29 survivors who made it out alive out of this disaster. The flight ran into serious trouble as it approached Grozny. Reports suggest it was hit by a Russian anti-aircraft missile, possibly from a Panzer S-1 system, causing major damage. Despite the chaos, the pilots managed to divert the plane toward Aktau for an emergency landing. Sadly, the aircraft crashed just almost 2 miles from Aktau International Airport. Experts think the plane was mistakenly targeted by Russian air defenses, which were on high alert due to military tensions in the area. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev has called on Russia to take responsibility and compensate the victims' families. Investigations are ongoing, with authorities from Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Russia working to discover the full story behind this devastating incident. Swiftair Flight 5960. Swiftair Flight 5960, a cargo plane operated for DHL, was on its way from Leipzig, Germany to Vilnius, Lithuania, when tragedy struck. It was November 25, 2024, when, during its approach to Vilnius Airport, the Boeing 737-400 freighter crashed just 0.81 miles short of the runway near a residential area. Sadly, one of the 4 crew members lost their lives, while the other 3 were injured. Before the crash, everything seemed routine. The crew was in regular contact with air traffic control, but as they got closer to the runway, communication suddenly stopped. The plane descended below the normal glide path and hit a 2-story house. Thankfully, all 12 people inside the building were evacuated safely, and no one on the ground was hurt. Investigators are still trying to figure out what went wrong. They're looking into possible technical issues, human error, or weather conditions that could have contributed. Both flight recorders have been recovered and are being analyzed to piece together what happened. Experts from Spain, Germany, the US, and Lithuania are working together on the investigation. While the exact cause isn't clear yet, Aviation experts stress how crucial it is to thoroughly understand incidences like this to improve safety and prevent future accidents. Voepass Linhas Aéreas Flight 2283. This was an ATR 72-500 turboprop flying from Cascavel, Paraná to Guarulhos International Airport in São Paulo, Brazil. Tragically, on August 9, 2024, the plane crashed near Vinhedo, São Paulo State, killing all 62 people on board. The flight was cruising at 17,000 feet when things took a sudden turn. The plane lost altitude quickly and entered a flat spin. Despite the crew's efforts, they couldn't regain control, and the plane crashed into a residential area. Luckily, no one on the ground was hurt. Early investigations suggest that severe icing may have caused the accident. It's believed that ice buildup on the wings might have made the plane lose control. There's also concern about whether the plane's de-icing equipment failed, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. Experts are stressing how important good de-icing systems and proper pilot training are for dealing with bad weather. The investigation is still underway, with officials analyzing the flight data recorders and other evidence to figure out exactly what went wrong. Singapore Airlines Flight 321. It was just a regular long-haul flight. Singapore Airlines Flight 321 was on its way from London to Singapore when the disaster took place. About 10 hours into the journey, as the plane flew over Myanmar on 21st of May 2024, it was hit by a sudden severe turbulence. The violent shaking tragically caused the death of a 73-year-old British passenger and left more than 100 others injured. The pilots quickly diverted to Bangkok, where medical teams were ready to help. The turbulence came out of nowhere, throwing the plane up and down. Passengers and crew who weren't wearing seatbelts were tossed around the cabin, leading to chaos and serious injuries. The sudden jolts turned what was a calm flight into a terrifying experience. Experts think the plane encountered clear air turbulence, something that's almost impossible to see or predict because it happens in clear skies without any warning signs. Some believe climate change might be making this kind of turbulence more frequent and intense. Investigators are now looking into why the plane couldn't avoid the turbulent zone and whether anything could have been done to prevent this tragic event. Air Serbia Flight 324. It was an Embraer E195 aircraft operated by Marathon Airlines, scheduled to fly from Belgrade to Düsseldorf on February 18, 2024. During takeoff from Belgrade Nikola Tesla Airport, the aircraft began its roll from an intersection, leaving a shorter runway length than usual. The plane overran the runway's end before becoming airborne, striking the instrument landing system antenna array. Despite sustaining significant damage to its fuselage, left wing root, and left stabilizer, the crew managed to safely return the aircraft to Belgrade without any injuries among the 111 occupants. Investigations revealed that the crew's decision to commence takeoff from an intersection, resulting in a reduced runway length, was a critical factor. This misjudgment led to the aircraft's inability to achieve sufficient speed within the available distance, causing the overrun. In response to the incident, Air Serbia terminated its wet lease agreement with Marathon Airlines and retired its entire Embraer fleet on February 21, 2024. This event underscores the importance of strict adherence to standard operating procedures and thorough pre-flight planning to ensure safety. Hop a Jet Flight 823. Hop a Jet Flight 823 started as a routine charter flight traveling from Ohio State University Airport in Columbus to Naples, Florida on February 9, 2024. But as the plane neared Naples, things took a devastating turn. The pilots reported that both engines had failed and declared an emergency. Unable to make it to the airport, they attempted a desperate landing on Interstate 75. The plane tragically crashed into vehicles on the highway, burst into flames, and came to a stop against a concrete barrier. Both pilots lost their lives in the accident, but incredibly, the flight attendant and 2 passengers survived. Their survival was partly thanks to the quick thinking of the flight attendant, who helped with the evacuation. Investigators from the NTSB found that the crew had received low oil pressure warnings for both engines just before the crash, which caused the failures. What led to the oil pressure loss is still unclear, and the investigation is ongoing. Experts are stressing the importance of regular maintenance and thorough pre-flight checks to avoid such disasters in the future. The NTSB is continuing to analyze the flight data to figure out exactly what went wrong. Japan Airlines Flight 516. On January 2, 2024, Japan Airlines Flight 516 was making its way from New Chitose Airport in Sapporo to Tokyo's Haneda Airport when disaster struck. During its landing, the plane collided with a Japan Coast Guard Dash 8 aircraft that was on the same runway. Both planes caught fire on impact, Luckily, all 379 passengers and crew on the Japan Airlines flight evacuated safely, though 17 people were injured. But unfortunately, 5 out of 6 crew members on the Coast Guard plane lost their lives. The crash occurred because both aircraft were on the runway at the same time. The Coast Guard plane was preparing to deliver aid to areas hit by a recent earthquake. Investigators are still working to figure out how both planes ended up on the same runway. Experts are exploring several possibilities, including a possible miscommunication between air traffic control and the flight crews or any procedural mistakes. The Japan Transport Safety Board released an initial report on December 24th, but has yet to determine the exact cause. The investigation is ongoing, with the aim of preventing similar incidents in the future.